Have you ever stopped to think about why some cherubs decided not to follow Lucifer, even in the face of all his beauty, power, and influence in heaven? If he was so convincing, what led some of these celestial beings to resist? What hidden truth did they know? There is something behind this choice that has never been talked about in traditional preaching. The Holy Bible shows us that there was a war, a rebellion, but few talk about those who remained loyal, even surrounded by fallen angels. We are not talking about any angelic being. The cherubim are among those closest to God, guardians of his glory, those who witnessed the throne, who saw the majesty up close. Lucifer, before the fall, was one of them. But what caused this division among the angels themselves? What caused a third to be thrown away, while others defended the truth to the end? There is a mystery hidden in this decision, something that is present between the lines of Scripture, and that can completely transform the way you see spiritual battle. What happened behind the celestial scenes? At that crucial moment, how were these cherubim able to discern the lie from the deception when so many allowed themselves to be seduced? In this video, we will explore the role of these faithful guardians, the ones who protected the hidden truth in heaven. Get ready to see spiritual warfare from another perspective, because understanding this resistance can reveal deep secrets about faithfulness, choice, and the true nature of evil. But before you reveal who these cherubs are and why they refuse to follow the rebel, you need to understand what was really at stake. You need to understand what was really at stake. This was not just a power struggle. It was an attempt to corrupt the truth, to distort the divine order. And the cherubim who resisted, even in the face of seduction and chaos, were the first to raise a shield against lies. They didn't just stand with God. They protected that which was sacred. Now tell me, have you ever heard about this? Have you ever stopped to think that not all angels were fooled? Leave here in the comments what you think led these cherubs to resist. Your opinion may open the eyes of other people who, like you, are seeking to understand the truth behind the Holy Bible. And if this content is already moving you, if you feel like you're learning something new, something that isn't talked about in traditional pulpits, show that you value it. Click like right now. This helps the video reach more people and keep that message alive. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel. With each new video, you'll delve deeper into biblical revelations that have been hidden over time and are now being brought to light. Activate the bell so you don't miss any part of this journey. Now that you understand what motivated these cherubs to remain faithful, we need to go back to the beginning of it all, where this story began, the origin of the rebellion, and the true face of Lucifer. Before any human being took their first breath, even before the earth was shaped with the hands of the Creator, a perfect, glorious, and organized reality already existed. Heaven, as described in Scripture, was an environment of absolute order, where everything worked in perfect harmony with the sovereign will of God. In this heavenly setting, where divine glory shone with indescribable intensity, where praise was constant and holiness was the atmosphere, God was not alone. Around his throne there were beings created with specific functions, full of wisdom, beauty, and power, the celestial beings, among them, the cherubim. These cherubim were no ordinary angels. They were exalted creatures close to the throne itself, beings who guarded the presence of God with reverence and authority. And among them, one stood out, the one the Bible calls the cherub anointed to protect, as it is in Ezekiel 28:14. This being was Lucifer. And no, Lucifer was not a name of darkness in the beginning. On the contrary, his name meant bringer of light. He was created to reflect the glory of God, to be a living symbol of the perfection, beauty, and wisdom of the Creator. He was beautiful, covered with precious stones full of music and splendor. He walked among the fiery stones of the sky. He was among those closest to God, and his mission was to protect, guard, reflect the divine light. But here comes the crucial point that many people ignore. What was at stake was much more than appearance or position. God did not create robots in heaven. Even angelic beings, even exalted cherubim were given free will. This means they could choose. And just because there was choice, there was also the possibility of disobedience. Lucifer, even though he was so close to God, began to entertain thoughts that they didn't come from the light. thoughts that did not match adoration, humility, reverence. In his heart, a silent but lethal desire arose, the desire to be like God. It is difficult to imagine how this pride could well up within such an enlightened being, but the Word makes it clear. It was within him that sin was born. He saw himself as too beautiful, too wise, too exalted. He started looking at himself instead of looking at God, and little by little his adoration turned to ambition, his submission turned into rebellion, and his light turned to darkness. This didn't happen in one day. The plan was being constructed, word by word, argument by argument. Lucifer began to spread his ideas among the other angels. With subtle words, insinuations, doubts, he began to suggest that God was hiding something, that creation could go further, that he himself could guide heaven in a better way. The old serpent tactic was already being designed there, before Eden even existed. And here's the part that almost no one talks about in the pulpits. He convinced many, but not all. He was influential, yes. He seduced a third of the heavenly hosts, but 2/3 didn't budge. 2/3 remained firm. Among them, cherubs who, even close to Lucifer, even listening to his arguments, even watching the rebellion forming, decided not to follow the path of lies. They remained on the light side. They stood by the truth. Why? What did they see that others didn't? This is the point where our attention needs to be. These cherubim had discernment. They were so close to the throne that they knew God's presence is not replaceable. They were not deceived because they knew glory in a real way. They didn't just hear about it. They lived the truth every day. They knew there was nothing but the presence of God, nothing fairer, nothing purer, nothing more worthy. Lucifer could have seductive arguments. He could appear convincing. He could paint promises of freedom, of power, of leadership, but none of that could compete with the absolute truth that these cherubs guarded. They were guardians of the presence, yes, but more than that, they were guardians of the truth. They knew what was at stake. They knew that if they gave in to the lie, they would lose access to the light. And when you truly know the light, you never accept living in the shadows again. These cherubs became a symbol of loyalty, of firmness, of commitment to what is eternal. And not only did they resist, they remained on God's side until the end of that battle. And it's worth remembering, this resistance was not passive. When war broke out in heaven, as Revelation describes it, there was combat. The archangel Michael, who led the faithful army, was accompanied by angels and cherubim who fought for the truth. They didn't just stay, they acted. They protected, confronted, overturned the lie. They took a stand when many remained silent. They shined when many dimmed. Now think with me. If there in heaven, where everything was perfect, there was a division, a rebellion, a choice. What makes us think that here on earth is different? The same lie that started with Lucifer continues to be repeated every day. You can be like God. Do it your way. You don't need to obey. And even today, in the midst of chaos, religious confusion, false doctrines, and distortion of Scripture, God still raises up mind-keepers of the truth, people who choose faithfulness, even when it means swimming against the current. That's why understanding what happened before the fall is so important, because this story repeats itself. It is repeated in the world, in churches, in families, and even in the hearts of each one of us. The choice that Lucifer made and the choice that the faithful cherubim made are choices that continue to be made today, every day. And now I want to hear from you. Leave it in the comments. Have you ever reflected on the role of these faithful cherubs? Do you think this same battle between truth and lies continues today? Comment with the phrase, I choose truth, if you want to be like these guardians who stood firm in the face of rebellion. Your comment may inspire others to do the same. Oh, and don't forget to leave a like if this word impacted you, and subscribe to continue receiving content that reveals the depth of the Holy Bible, without distortions, without heresy, without fear. What we are going to see next may change your vision of the spiritual world even more, because the story doesn't stop here. Lucifer's rebellion did not begin with an external coup, nor with a direct attack against God. It started in silence. It began in the most dangerous place where evil can be born, inside the heart. And this is something that many people ignore. Lucifer, before becoming the adversary, the deceiver, was an anointed cherub, created with perfection, beauty, and a specific purpose. He was among the most angels and taken, with direct access to the glory of God. He saw, breathed, and reflected light. However, something began to corrupt this reflection. He began to look at himself, no longer at the Creator, and that's where pride emerged. The Bible gives us clues to this process in Isaiah 14:13-14, where Lucifer says in his heart, "I will ascend to heaven, I will exalt my throne above the stars of God." Realize that it was not God who pushed him, nor any disenchantment with the purpose. It was himself. He wanted to be more. He wanted to push the limits of what he was created to be. He wanted to take the place of the one who created him. This is the essence of all sin, wanting to take God's place. It was a voluntary, conscious desire, nurtured in silence until it became an open rebellion. And like all pride, he was not satisfied with falling alone. This is an important aspect of the nature of evil. It is contagious. Lucifer began to whisper, spreading your ideas. He planted seeds of doubt, of distrust, of dissatisfaction, and many, unfortunately, listened. A third of the angels were seduced. These beings, created for worship and service, found themselves enchanted by the promise of autonomy, of power, of their own glory. They believed the lie and threw themselves into the abyss of deception. But here's the point we can't ignore. Not everyone gave in. Some cherubim and other angels resisted, even in the face of Lucifer's influence. Even as they saw the rebellion grow, they kept their eyes fixed on the truth. Why? Because they knew who God was. Because they knew that no lie, no matter how brilliant it seemed, could replace the true light. The nature of this resistance is fascinating. These beings were not manipulated out of fear or control. They simply chose the truth. And that choice is one of the most powerful declarations of faithfulness the heavens have ever witnessed. Imagine what was happening at that moment. A part of the sky in disarray, angels turning against the Creator, Lucifer himself, full of rhetoric, suggesting there was a better way, and in the midst of it all, a group of celestial beings standing firm, not by force, not by imposition, but out of conviction. And this story needs to resonate with us today, because Lucifer's pride is the same pride that tries to deceive us every day. The idea that we can be the center of everything, that we can define what is right, that we can create our own truth, ignoring what God has already clearly revealed in His Word. But there will always be a remnant. There will always be those who refuse to give in, those who keep the truth no matter what the cost. And just as it happened in heaven, life here on earth is also divided between those who follow the lie and those who keep their eyes on the throne. And that's why this topic is so important, because we are not just talking about a distant biblical history, a spiritual past. We are talking about a reality that still resonates. The same spirit of rebellion continues to try to seduce, deceive, divide, and in the same way, the same call to fidelity continues to echo. Be a guardian of the truth. Be the one who resists, that doesn't bend, who doesn't exchange eternal glory for a fleeting shine. Now tell me, have you ever reflected on how pride can corrupt even the highest? How is this story still alive today? Comment below with the phrase, "I don't give in to lies." I want to see who is standing firm with the truth and who is willing to open their eyes to this spiritual reality. Comment, share, leave a like, and if you haven't signed up, yet sign up now, because in the next chapter of this journey we'll see how the war began and what happened to those who chose the right side. They were not deceived. They kept the truth, and that changes everything. When the rebellion began to take shape behind the celestial scenes, in the silence of intentions and between the lines of the words that Lucifer spread, not everyone was blind. Many listened, many doubted, many fell. But some rose up inside, even if they didn't fight physical battles at that initial moment. They discerned that something was wrong. These were the faithful cherubim, the guardians of the presence of God, spiritual beings who knew how to differentiate appearance from essence, light from vanity, truth from deception. The word in Ezekiel 10:20 gives us a powerful clue as to who the cherubim are. Living beings, full of eyes. And that's not just a visual description. These eyes represent discernment, vigilance, deep spiritual awareness. They saw beyond what was said. They perceived intentions, not just words. They didn't follow those who spoke beautifully. They moved according to the light of the throne. This is very strong, because Lucifer's fall was not an isolated and sudden act. It was a process of spiritual seduction, of conviction, of articulation of arguments, and even if faced with this pressure, even listening to lies coated with logic, these cherubs remained unshakable. They knew God's holiness up close. They held the essence of true worship. Can you imagine the level of conviction these celestial beings had? In the midst of an environment where a third of the angels decided to follow the voice of pride, they remained in reverent silence before the presence of God. They knew that the majesty of the Most High was non-negotiable. They knew that glory could not be shared. They knew that God's authority was not in dispute. This is not brute force. This is fidelity in pure essence. And here we begin to understand something profound. The cherubim did not resist out of fear of punishment, but out of love for the truth. They were so connected to the heart of God that any shadow of deceit became repulsive. Their loyalty wasn't blind. It was based on intimacy. They were so close to the throne that there was no room for doubt. They saw holiness with their own eyes, realized that in heaven, where everything was perfect, where there was no need, where there was no pain, there was still rebellion. And this shows how dangerous pride is when it enters, even in a whisper. But on the other hand, it also shows the power of a conscience grounded in the presence of God. The faithful cherubim did not negotiate. They knew who God was, and that was enough to resist. While Lucifer spoke of freedom, these guardians remembered divine order. As he ignited desires for ascension, they remained prostrate in worship. They did not fall because there was no breach in their commitment to the truth. And here's something that needs to be said clearly. It wasn't that they were smarter than everyone else. It was that they were more surrendered. Heavenly intelligence is in all angels, but deep surrender is only born in those who love the presence more than their own desires. Do you realize the depth of this? The cherubim did not resist just because they were programmed to do so. They resisted because they were already committed to the glory of God before the rebellion even began. They didn't need to wait to see the consequences to make a decision. They had already chosen to serve the Lord of truth long before the conflict began. They were kept because they kept. They protected holiness and were therefore protected from deception. This is more than a heavenly account. It is a spiritual principle. And this is where we need to stop and reflect. Have we also resisted mistakes disguised as good ideas? Have we also discerned when something seems right, but is outside the light of the Word? The truth is that the same spirit that tempted Lucifer continues to act today, trying to convince God's children to rebel against the divine order, to question God's character, to want the throne without a cross. But even today, the Lord raises up people with the spirit of faithful cherubs, people who do not bend, who do not give in, who do not exchange adoration for recognition, people who keep the truth even when everyone around them is exchanging the glory of God for empty promises, people who don't need applause because they have already heard the voice of God in secret. And if in heaven there was a group that resisted, there is also one on earth today. And whoever has the Holy Spirit has his spiritual eyes open, like the cherubim, because it's not just about seeing with physical eyes, it's about discerning with a heart full of truth. They saw what Lucifer was trying to hide. They knew that behind the speech of freedom, there was only prison. Behind the promise of exaltation lay ruin. Behind the appearance of light there was darkness. They saw the spirit of the rebellion before it became a tragedy. And this was only possible because they were aligned with the glory, with the Word, with the essence of God. Now I need to hear from you. Does what we shared here today make sense to you? Have you ever stopped to reflect on why some cherubs don't follow Lucifer? Comment below. I choose to be a guardian of the truth. If you also want to be someone who remains firm even when everything around is shaking. If you felt that this content brought light to your journey, leave a like. This really helps the channel reach more people with serious, faithful, and profound biblical content. And if you are not yet registered, sign up now and activate the bell to continue on this journey with us. In the next section, we will delve even deeper into the spiritual war that began in heaven and understand the role of Michael and the heavenly armies. And look, what comes next will open your spiritual eyes even more. There was battle in heaven. This is one of the most impactful and at the same time, little understood statements within the scriptures. A spiritual war, not in the symbolic sense, but as literal. A real definitive confrontation between opposing forces. On the one hand, pride, lies, ambition. On the other, truth, fidelity, holiness. And this battle was so intense that Revelation 12:7-9 gives us a direct glimpse of what happened. Michael and his angels fought against the dragon, and the dragon fought and his angels. This was not a simple expulsion. It wasn't a conversation on the throne followed by a punishment. It was war, sky against sky, angel against angel, truth versus deception. Now imagine what that means. Imagine the scale of a conflict where celestial beings, created in glory, majesty, and power, directly confront each other due to an internal rebellion. This breaks the whole idea that evil arose in the world only through man's sin. Evil, in fact, was born before, in the heavenly regions in the heart of Lucifer, and spread among those who were around the glory. But what didn't spread among everyone was the lie, because along with the dragon were his followers, angels who gave in to pride, who believed in the false promise of freedom, who traded worship for status. But on the other side, with Michael, was the army of the faithful. There were those who didn't sell themselves. There were those who chose the side of light even when everything seemed uncertain. There were those who knew that fidelity is worth more than apparent glory. And among them, no doubt, were the faithful cherubim. The cherubim we saw earlier, those who refused to follow Lucifer, who discerned the lie even when it came in disguise, were present in this battle, not as mere spectators, but as combatants. They didn't just watch the outcome of the rebellion. They participated in the resistance. They defended the sanctity of the throne. They fought not with physical weapons but with spiritual authority, with the strength that only comes from those who are aligned with God's eternal truth. And the leader of this faithful army was Miguel. The name Miguel at its root carries a powerful question. Who is like God? This is a question that does not wait for an answer. It's a statement disguised as a question. Michael carries within him the denial of Lucifer's pride. While the enemy said, "I will ascend, I will be like the Most High," Michael, with his own identity, said, "Who is like God?" In other words, no one can be compared to him. This contrast between the two names already shows the spirit of each side. On one, ambition; on the other, reverence. While the dragon wanted to usurp glory, Michael and his angels wanted to preserve holiness. This was the basis of the war. It was not an even battle in the sense of power. God is sovereign and has never been at risk. But it was a war in which the free will of the angels was tested and the truth had to be defended. Miguel didn't win because he was stronger. He won because he was on the right side. He won because he was in alliance with the Creator. He won because the truth always prevails over lies, even when it seems to be at a disadvantage. This war was the definitive separation between those who would remain forever next to the light and those who would be cast away from it. And here's something profound. When the word says that their place was no longer found in heaven, it is talking about something beyond geographic expulsion. You're talking about an eternal break. Those who were thrown forever lost the right to dwell near the throne. But those who stayed, who fought alongside Michael, were confirmed in presence, sealed in loyalty, recognized as soldiers of truth. The faithful cherubim not only withstood the fall, they were honored for their faithfulness. And to this day, according to the scripture account, they remain guardians of glory. They are not symbolic figures. They are active, acting in the spiritual dimension, serving the eternal purposes of the kingdom. This confrontation in the sky marked the separation between light and darkness. And it's interesting to note that it all started with an intention, the hidden intention of pride in Lucifer's heart. But it ended with a public declaration. The great dragon was cast down to the earth, and his angels with him. This fall was not just a military defeat. It was an exposure of deception. It was the unmasking of the lie. It was the revelation that no argument, however beautiful it may seem, can sustain itself in the face of God's holiness. The war in heaven shows us that there is no neutrality in the spiritual kingdom. Either you are with God, or you are against him. Either you fight for the truth, or you are an accomplice to the lie. And if you look closely, you will realize that this same war continues on another scale. Today, here on earth, the battle between truth and deception continues. But the question is, whose side are you on? Are you willing to fight like Michael and the faithful cherubim? Are you willing to defend the truth of the Holy Bible even when the whole world tries to distort it? Are you ready to say, who is like God? Yes, not just with your lips, but with your life. Because this battle, which began in heaven, reached the world. And each choice, each position, each renunciation is a spiritual cry that echoes in the kingdom of God. The cherubim who remained on the side of light became an example of firmness, purity, and conviction. They showed that it is not enough to be in heaven. It is necessary to remain in the heart of God. And now I want to invite you to be an active part of this. If you feel that this message moved you, that it opened your mind to something that perhaps you had never understood before, comment below. I fight for the truth. Write this sentence in the comments to mark your position. You may be going through internal struggles. You may be pressured by lies disguised as truth. You may even be tired of so much spiritual confusion. But today you can align yourself with the army of light. And if this word edified you, leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with someone who needs to wake up. Because what we're going to reveal next goes even deeper. What is the mission of these guardians of truth after the war? What do they do today? What is their role in the plan of redemption? Stay with me, because in the next section, the truth will continue to be exposed. And more than that, it will strengthen you from within. These cherubs didn't just stay, they protected the truth. And this truth was not an abstract idea, a religious concept, nor a beautiful symbol to be remembered in songs or represented in images. The truth they held was alive. It was the very character of God. It was the revelation of who He is and how He acts. And so, when the rebellion was crushed and the faithful angels remained on the side of light, the cherubim did not return to inactivity. They were positioned by God for strategic roles within His eternal plan. They are not just reminders of heavenly faithfulness. They are active agents of divine protection throughout biblical history and beyond. The first time we see one of these remarkable moments is precisely after the fall of man. In Genesis 3:24, it is written that God placed cherubim with a flaming sword at the east of the Garden of Eden to guard the way to the tree of life. And look how deep that is. The man had disobeyed. Sin had entered the world, and for justice, he was separated from the source of eternal life. But understand, God did not place a wall, a stone, a physical barrier. He placed cherubim, beings who knew the truth, who had resisted the lie in heaven, and would now be the guardians of what man could no longer access directly. The tree of life, which symbolized eternal communion with God, could no longer be touched by contaminated hands, and the cherubim were chosen to protect this access. This episode reveals that the cherubim were not just messengers or worshipers, but defenders of spiritual limits established by God. They were placed as sentinels between fallen humanity and the sacred, and this shows us how much God trusts them to preserve what is holy. They are more than celestial figures with wings. They are living symbols of justice, faithfulness, and spiritual discernment. While many think that the role of angels is just to sing hosannas or deliver messages, cherubs reveal a deeper aspect. They act as protectors of truth in times of crisis, caretakers of divine order in the midst of chaos. And this activity was not limited to Eden. Cherubim appear heavily in prophetic visions, in the records of the tabernacle, and even in the temple built by Solomon. God ordered them to be represented in the Ark of the Covenant, with their wings outstretched covering the mercy seat. Do you understand the weight of this? The place where God manifested His visible presence among men, the Holy of Holies, was marked by the image of the cherubim. And it wasn't decoration. It was a sign. It was a spiritual reminder that where there is glory, there is protection. Where there is presence, there is faithfulness guarding around. These beings, who resisted in heaven and guarded Eden, now symbolized the holiness of God over the ark among the people of Israel. This shows the continuity of their mission, to defend the limits between the holy and the profane, between sinful man and the holy God. They were always in between presence and the world, between man and throne, between rebellion and fidelity. They are a constant reminder that God's truth is not unprotected. It is guarded by those who do not corrupt themselves, who do not get distracted, who do not bend. And the mission of these guardians of truth did not end in the Old Testament. Even though the biblical text does not describe them in each historical episode with names and details, the spiritual pattern remains. Every time there is a line being crossed, every time there is a sacred revelation about to be given, every time there is the risk of the truth being erased or distorted, the cherubs are there, even if invisible to human eyes. They represent the intact covenant between God and eternal truth. They are, like sentinels of fire, watchers of the kingdom, guardians of what is unchanging. Now imagine what this means for us today, in a time where truth has been relativized, where even within churches there is confusion between what is divine revelation and what is just human interpretation, knowing that there are still keepers of the truth. In the spiritual kingdom is a comfort, but it is also a warning, because the same God who placed cherubim to guard the tree of life is also raising up people with the spirit of these guardians. Men and women who do not negotiate principles, who defend the word, who do not bow to the culture of deception. And perhaps, without you realizing it, you are being awakened to this calling right now. Maybe the reason you're watching this video is exactly that, God calling you to guard the truth with your life, so as not to give in when pressure comes, so as not to accept shortcuts when they offer you a distorted version of the gospel, to position yourself, as the cherubim did, between the holiness of God and the corruption of the world. And that takes courage. It requires discernment. It demands holiness. Cherubim were established by God in positions of honor, not because they were physically strong, but because they were spiritually loyal. They were among those who knew glory the most, but they did not allow themselves to be contaminated by Lucifer's vanity. They knew who God was, and that was enough to never waver. Now imagine an entire people on earth who carried this same essence. May he live with that same zeal. That had the mission of preserving the truth in the midst of a generation that tries to erase everything that is sacred. The world would be different. Therefore, if this message is touching you, if you feel that there is something inside you that wants to awaken, comment below, "I want to keep the truth." Write this in the comments, and mark this moment as a step of spiritual commitment. And if this content helped you understand something that you had never stopped to think about, leave a like and share it with someone who needs to hear it too. And of course, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next part, because we're still going to continue. And what comes next is about the mission of these guardians in the final days of history. And you need to know what's coming. What can we learn from them? Perhaps this is the most powerful question in this study, because more than knowing spiritual facts, more than delving into biblical revelations, the real impact is understanding how it applies to our lives now. The story of the faithful cherubim is not recorded just for our spiritual curiosity or wonder at the mysteries of heaven. It is there to teach us eternal principles, values that span the centuries and continue to be urgent, especially in this time in which we live, where deception, distortion, and lies have gained space, even within what many call truth. These cherubim who resisted Lucifer's pride were not spared the pressure. They were in the same room, heard the same words, saw the same glow. They were faced with the same challenge, choosing between following a charismatic, seductive leader with the appearance of light, or remaining faithful to the invisible, unchanging, eternal God. And they chose loyalty. They chose not to contaminate themselves. They chose to maintain holiness. They chose to stay. This teaches us that even in heaven, even in glory, even surrounded by perfection, there was free will. There was a decision. There was a line being drawn between those who would yield and those who would resist. And if there was this line in the sky, imagine on earth. Today we live in times where many are exchanging the truth for convenience, where the word has been molded to man's taste, where the gospel has been marketed, where holiness became a subjective concept, where grace has been used as an excuse for sin, and God's authority has been questioned by those who want to live without limits. And in this scenario, the examples of faithful cherubs shine like beacons. They show us that it is possible to remain, that it is possible to resist, that it is possible to say no to the system of deception, even if it means being outnumbered, even if it costs position, praise, or applause. Those who side with truth are not the most popular. They are not the ones with the sweetest speech. They are not the ones who adapt to any environment. They are those that have roots, who have conviction, who know the presence of God up close and therefore would not trade it for anything. Just as the cherubim did not surrender to Lucifer's words, we are also called not to surrender to the voices that invite us to negotiate the truth, to relativize the commandments, to soften holiness. We are called to be guardians of the word, sentinels of the truth, men and women who remain standing when many fall. And make no mistake, the pressure is real. It comes subtle, sometimes disguised as kindness, inclusion, freedom. It comes with that modern speech of, each person has their own truth, but the cherubim teach us that there is only one truth, that which comes from the mouth of God. They did not follow Lucifer because they knew who was the only one worthy of receiving worship. They didn't negotiate because they knew what was behind the false glory. And we need to carry this same discernment today, because the lie continues to use spiritual makeup. The enemy continues to transform himself into an angel of light, and only those who know the true presence can identify when something is out of place. We learn from these beings that obedience is more precious than shine, that the truth sometimes requires silence, firmness, resistance, that the majority is not always right, that staying on the right side will often feel like being on the opposite side of the crowd, but it's worth it. It's worth it because being on God's side is always better than appearing right before men. The cherubim show us that even when everything around seems to shake, fidelity keeps our feet firm. They also teach us that protecting the truth is an active mission. It is not enough to believe in silence. You need to position yourself. If you have access to the word today, if you can read, preach, share, live this truth, this also puts you in a position of responsibility, because every guardian is, first and foremost, someone who carries what he has received with zeal. Today's generation needs more than ever people who carry the spirit of the faithful cherubim, people who don't let themselves be fooled by pretty words, people who look beyond the stage, beyond appearances, beyond fame, people who know the throne, not the system, people who walk with God instead of what is convenient. Cherubim were not mystical heroes. They were loyal. Just like that, they looked at the throne and decided that there was nothing more worthy of their worship. They did not let themselves be carried away by Lucifer's promises because they knew that nothing surpasses the glory of God. They were where they needed to be, and they chose to stay. And today, each of us is placed at that same spiritual crossroads. We can go with the flow, embrace what the world calls freedom, let ourselves be carried by the voice of the serpent, or we can stay on the narrow path, even if it seems more difficult, even if it seems lonelier, even if no one around understands. And maybe right now you are at that decision point. Perhaps you are faced with situations in which the world is offering you easy alternatives, but which will take you away from being present. Perhaps you are hearing voices that say that obeying God is outdated, that the truth can be adjusted, that holiness is oppressive. But I ask you with all fear, are these speeches not echoes of the same lie that tried to seduce the heavens? Faithful cherubim chose to keep the truth when everything seemed confusing, and that choice marked them forever. You too can make that choice today. If this word woke you up inside, if it confronted you, if it reminded you of something you needed to hear, comment below, I choose to remain. Write this sentence in the comments and publicly confirm that you are on the side of light, on the side of fidelity, on the side of the truth that does not change. This is more than a phrase. It's a spiritual statement. And if this content edified you, made you think, or made you see the word more clearly, leave a like on the video. This helps the content reach more people who need to hear exactly that. And of course, if you haven't signed up yet, sign up now and activate the bell, because the next part will reveal the role of these guardians in the final events of human history and what the Bible reveals about their involvement in the days to come. Stay with me. What is to come will open your eyes even more. Now that you know the story of the guardians of truth, now that you understand what is behind those who stood firm when the sky shook, now that you see clearly that not everyone bent, that not everyone was corrupted, that not everyone was carried away by Lucifer's empty promises, it is impossible to ignore the weight of choice. These cherubs not only resisted, they took a stand. They stood up as sentinels of truth. They said no to a path of vanity, even surrounded by false lights, convincing arguments, and a crowd giving in to lies. They showed that loyalty is a decision. It is not emotion, it is not convenience. And that same decision knocks on your door now. Which side are you on? This is not a rhetorical question. It's the most serious question you can hear today. Because at the end of the day, spiritual warfare, it's not in the past. She continues, the enemy may have been released, but its influence still acts in the world, trying to confuse, manipulate, distort, and most importantly, keep people away from the truth of the unholy Bible. And the same truth that the cherubim protected there in Eden, before the tree of life, is the one you hold in your hands today. The difference is that now, the decision is not heavenly, it is earthly. It's yours. It's personal. It's daily. Will you follow the path of pride or of fidelity? Pride says, do it your way. Fidelity says, follow God's will. Pride says, you deserve more. Faithfulness says, He is enough. Pride says, it's just once. Fidelity responds, I prefer to remain firm. Pride chose to fall with Lucifer. Fidelity preferred to fight with Miguel. These are not just biblical examples. They are spiritual mirrors. They reveal who we are and who we can be. And perhaps, up until now, you have seen yourself wavering. Perhaps you identify more with those who were left on the fence, confused, not knowing which side to take. But let me tell you, loyalty begins with a simple choice, a clear decision to take a stand. It's not about being perfect. It's about surrendering. The cherubim did not keep the truth because they were untouchable, but because they were loyal, because they no longer had any focus other than the throne. And if today you feel this call to align yourself with what is holy, don't ignore it. Because when God calls, He empowers, He sustains, He keeps you standing when everything seems to be falling apart around you. The world will continue to offer shortcuts. The culture will continue to try to soften sin. Religiosity will continue to try to replace presence with appearance. But those who truly know light are not satisfied with shadow. Those who have been exposed to glory are not distracted by false brilliance. Anyone who has heard the voice of God does not sell themselves for empty speeches. And if this video impacted you, it's because you carry something inside you that is being awakened. Maybe you don't even know how to explain it, but you feel like this is all pulling you closer to God, closer to the truth, closer to your purpose. So comment below, I choose loyalty. This phrase is more than a comment. It is a spiritual response. And if you have already commented on other parts of this study, comment again. Reaffirm your choice. Make this video become a milestone in your life, a turning point, a day when you decided not to go with the flow, but the truth. And if this content moved you, leave a like. This shows me that this work is doing what it needs to do, awakening, instructing, edifying. Likes help this video reach other people who also need to hear this message, so don't underestimate the power of this gesture. And of course, if you are not yet subscribed to the channel, subscribe now. I'm not here to entertain you. I'm here to feed you spiritually with solid biblical words, without distortion, without heresy, without emotional manipulation. And get ready, because if this video shook you, imagine what's coming next. What I'm going to show you is something that almost no one preaches, something that many are afraid to face. The 4 fallen angels who were thrown into the abyss, and what they keep to this day. This will impact you in a way that you may never see spiritual warfare with the same eyes again. Click here and continue on this journey. You will understand what is really being kept, and why. If you have stayed with me this far, this already shows that you are thirsty for the truth of the word, that you are not satisfied with the shallow and want to delve deeper into spiritual revelations. So take advantage now and subscribe to the channel. Activate the bell so you don't miss any new content that will continue to edify you and open your spiritual eyes. And look, comment below on the phrase, I am a guardian of the truth. Only those who stayed until the end will know the weight of this statement. This is not just a comment, it is a prophetic act, a positioning before the spiritual world. If this video spoke to you, leave a like. This strengthens the channel and helps this message reach more people who need this truth. And now, look at the left side of the screen. Do you see this next video? Click on it. It is the continuation of this revealing journey. In it, we will talk about the 4 fallen angels who were thrown into the abyss and what they are keeping to this day. You can't miss this for anything. See you there.